Someone once told me to always do something that makes you uncomfortable every day, and this definitely counts for mine today because my heart rate is literally like 160 beats per minute right now, but that's okay.
But you can't tell.
Well, that's good. That's the goal. Before I kick off, I do want to give out a shout out to my Credera Denver crew. We originally wanted to broadcast this from Denver, but the timeline just didn't work out such that it could be engaging for all of you as well as not give Brian a heart attack. So I'm here today, but we are working really hard to be better at virtually integrating our offices. There's some really, really cool things happening up there, and it's important that we're able to share that momentum with all of you. So more to come that. Okay, let's get started. So to kick this off, I'm actually going to put all of you on the spot. Take the next 5 seconds and think about your priorities. What are the top 3 things in order that you would say are most important in your life? So I imagine most of you were able to, with a pretty decent amount of confidence, come up with what those things were. It's a pretty natural thing. And there's a lot of emerging thought and a lot of emerging content around how today's generation lacks work-life balance, how we carry higher stress, how we put more stock in career success than our heartfelt priorities. As we read article after article about how to be better at work-life integration, how to be more mindful, why we should all quit our corporate jobs and go find our true selves. And what does all this information have? What is the impact of that? Well, if you're like me, I simply added more to-do items to my already overfull plate. I spread my attention across more priorities as opposed to honing in on the ones that were really, really important. You see, I think the gap is not in our ability to identify what's important. I think the gap is in the ability of us to take control over our daily lives such that we're making prescriptive progress in the areas that matter most. It's the space between our aspirations and our success where things often go awry. So I'm going to take you back to the fall of 2016. In the fall of 2016, I had just competed on a team at the 2016 CrossFit Games. This was a goal I'd been chasing for nearly half a decade. I was recently promoted to senior consultant at Credera, and I was gaining momentum in my career. Sounds like a pretty great year, right? Well, in the next 3 months, the relationship that I thought was going to be forever ended. And my dad was rushed into an emergency heart surgery that none of us expected. It all brought me to my knees. Now, I'm not here to tell you I had this coming, seeing the light moment that I immediately changed how I started living my life. And this is definitely not a poor Amanda story, because my dad's in great health, and I'm recently engaged to a man that I love bigger than I could ever imagined. Okay? Thank you. But as the fog began to lift from those experiences, I recognized that there was a discrepancy between what I said my values were and how I truly lived my daily life. And more importantly, I recognized that I was the only one that had control to change it. There are 1,440 minutes in every day. That's 1,440 opportunities to become who you're going to become. And the best indicator of our success is where we spend our time. Let me say that again. How you spend your time is who you will become. So this box represents our capacity in life. Time is a limited resource, and our capacity at any given point in time is finite. This box doesn't grow when we add more to it, meaning the things inside of it get smaller with each new addition. So I'm going to start at the extreme. Steve Jobs, Olympians. They put all their chips into one basket to be the elite. At the end of their career, at the end of their lives, they're known for their one craft, and they largely sacrifice everything else. Now maybe some of us can relate to that at given points in our life, but many of us have more roles that we take on. So this Second box is my life in 2016. I was out the door before 6 a.m., home after 8 p.m. I'd spend an hour, maybe an hour and a half of family time before opening my computer to finish my day. I was committed to the grind. And quite frankly, I wore it as a badge of honor. But seeing this in a visual made me recognize how eye-opening, and it made me realize that I was not living my life proportionate to what I said my values were. So as we take ownership of our day, we can move to a homeostasis where how we spend our time is proportionate to what we would say our values would be. Now for me, my values are family first and foremost. That's my fiance, Mark. Credera, specifically mentorship and leadership and health and fitness. So easy, right? That's an easy thing to do. I think most of us recognize that there's usually a discrepancy between those things. But you see, the systems we've built make changing that really hard. We've hardwired ourselves to respond to the email as soon as it hits our inbox, to pick up the phone regardless of what's going on around us, to check Slack before we're even out of bed in the morning. Thus, the real value is understanding how we take control, how we build a system that enables us to change. So the first step in that is to create space. We live in a world where we're bombarded by distractions, constant distractions. And the number one thing we have to do to live a priority-driven life is know our priorities in intimate detail. And the only way we can do that is to give ourselves time and space for self-reflection. Now that can be 10 minutes a day on your way to drive to work. It can be 2 hours on a Sunday. Consistency matters more than the practice itself. So example of that. When I first started this, I downloaded the Headspace app. So Headspace is a meditation app. And I was so motivated. I'm going to get up every morning. I'm going to meditate for 15 minutes, and I'm going to start my day. That's how I'm going to create my space. So the only problem with that, I fall asleep in every meditation session. Every single one, right? So not very effective for me in creating space. So instead, I start every day with a Ramwad. It's yoga for CrossFitters, don't judge me. With a Ramwad and a practice of gratitude. And those 20 minutes make sure that my values are core and centered in my focus before I even walk out the door. Find what works for you. 2, get the right people on the boat. Accountability and sponsorship are critical in this process because guess what? It's hard. It's really, really hard. Let your loved ones, let your mentors, let your leaders know what your priorities are. And that creates a net of accountability, but it also gives them insight into your actions. If my leadership knows that mentorship is high on my priority list and that time on my calendar blocked out for my mentees is not movable unless it's a very important issue, I don't have to explain why I'm unavailable. And more importantly, I'm not at risk for moving that time and canceling that time that adds a lot of value to my life for something that could have waited. So get the right people on the boat. Take inventory. Take a literal inventory of your day. Write down, what are the things you did in a day? How many hours did you spend doing it? Assign value points to each of those items based on your core values. Let's take a look. So here's an example of my day. And I've assigned value points to those things, and I come up with a total. Now this number is arbitrary, but it allows me to track progress. Look at all the value gained, right? A whole 7 points. It allows me to track progress as you make changes in your day, and it ensures that the things you're doing align with your priorities. Recognize important versus urgent. Important issues drive success towards a mission or an objective. But it's the urgent issues that feel pressing. They're the things that make us want to drop everything to attend to them. But urgent issues often won't impede success of an objective if they're postponed. And in our systems, we place equal priority on important and urgent issues. And so I would argue that we ask the question, will this matter in 5 years? If the answer is no, be mindful in the priority you let that issue take in your life. Use a decision framework along similar lines. So remember, time is limited, and I guarantee that all of us have multiple things competing for a time slot at any given time. If you can use your priorities as a decision framework, it takes the pressure off of making decisions, right? And it makes us less at risk for responding to the urgent and letting other people control our day. Let's look at just a few kind of funny examples. So I'm at a dinner with close friends when I get an email from Andrew Stewart asking what I think about a project that starts in a month. What should I do, right? I'm going to keep on being invested in my dinner because while it may feel urgent, he's my boss, it's not going to impact the success of any objective or goal if I wait until tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to respond to him. I had plans to binge watch Game of Thrones with Mark, but our project team was working later than expected to prepare a critical feature for a production release. So, well, family is above mentorship and leadership, so I'm just going to go home and sit on the couch while they figure it out, right? No, that's not what's going to happen. I'm going to call them and I'm going to explain that there's an important issue, and I'm going to stay with the team until we get everything done. Now, these are very simple, and I understand that our lives are much more complex than that. But this is where the rubber meets the road. We can create space. We can know what our values are. But if we don't make decisions on how we spend our day, we will remain unchanged. You are in control of your schedule. You are in control of how you spend your time. Build yourself a framework that sets you up for success. Be disciplined. So, funny story about discipline. At the start of every project, I like to take my team members out to lunch one-on-one. And last fall, I had Kyle Preston on my team. I don't know if he's in the room today, but I had Kyle Preston on my team. And we went out to lunch. Lunch was great. Didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. I learned a few months later that at that lunch, Kyle ordered a salad. Kyle doesn't like salads, but Kyle was afraid to order anything unhealthy in front of me. So I'm not sure what that says about my leadership, but it does say that the discipline I have around my meals made an impact. I'm a very disciplined person. And I did tell Kyle I was going to tell that story, so thanks for being a good sport, Kyle, wherever you are. I thrive on structure and organization, so I never thought that discipline would be a place that I needed to focus. But even though I was motivated to be successful in the right areas of my life, I lacked discipline and the ability to say no because of the fear it would be perceived as lazy. And I lacked discipline and the ability to put my priorities first because of the fear that what other people would think and that I would let other people down. Discipline inspires motivation and inspires lasting behavior, not the other way around. Be present. Imagine a world where we don't think about work at home and we don't think about home at work, where everyone is not planning for their next meeting in the current one. When you start to be prescriptive about the things you put on your plate, you can be fully engaged in those activities that you do. When I commit to you, I can guarantee that you will have a 110% of my attention. How powerful is that? 110% of our attention over a 30-minute span is always going to be more productive than 40% of our attention over any amount of given time. Be present. Stop glorifying the hustle. This one is still hard for me. I was raised and I was taught, always work harder. Work harder and you will achieve your success. Work harder and you will reach your goals. My work ethic became a part of my identity. I didn't feel like myself if I wasn't working 12 to 14 hours a day. And I had to recognize that relentless effort towards things that add zero value to my life is not what makes me a hard worker. It's not what makes me successful. That sometimes spending Sunday on the couch with my fiance is driving me more in the direction of who I want to be than answering the 100 emails or cleaning out the closet or reorganizing the pantry or whatever the task may have been that day. Work hard at what matters, but judge your success by the fruits of your labor and not by the grind you took to get there. Maximize your minutes. So in an instance, a minute feels irrelevant, but it's the accumulation of minutes over days, years, decades that truly matter. So let's look at an example. 9 minutes. Most of us wouldn't consider 9 minutes a relevant part of our day. I actually chose 9 minutes specifically because it's the snooze time on the iPhone. Okay? In 9 minutes, one can possibly read one chapter of a book, do 9 minutes of meditation, or maybe even 80 burpees if you were feeling up to that. Now, are those things going to make you more knowledgeable, more mindful, more fit? Maybe, but probably not. But what if we look at those 9 minutes over a week, over a year, over 10 years? That's where we can see the impact. Success is the sum of minutes. Don't miss an opportunity to be great. And the last one, dream big. Our greatest fear is not that we are powerless. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. One day, I would love to be a partner in this firm. I also aspire to be a devoted mother and wife. Dream big. Dream big, but recognize that your path is not going to look like the person that did it in front of you. Recognize that the priorities you put in your box are going to change over the course of your life, and it's never going to be the same as the person sitting next to you. Recognize that you're going to have to say no more than you say yes. And that there are going to be sacrifices and trade-offs, and you're going to have to check your ego out the door more than you want to. But know that you are capable. Decide who you're going to be, decide how you're going to do it, commit to the daily discipline, and take control of the space between your aspirations and your success to ensure you get there. So to kind of close us out today, there's a quote by the Alabama football coach, Nick Saban. And he says, "I can't hear what you're saying because your actions are too loud." We take 1,444 steps to our destiny every day, to what we're going to become successful in every day. Your success is not going to be what you talk about. Your success is not going to be what you dream about. Your success is going to be the sum of how you spend your days. So I ask you, are you in control?